James here, and this is the 8th Java tutorial, and in this tutorial we will cover how to get input from the user, which we will use in several tutorials further down the line. So the first thing we have to do is create a scanner object. Remember from the, I think it was the 5th tutorial, we went over reference variables and instance variables. So basically we're going to create a new reference of the scanner. It's basically scanner, scan, and we're going to set it equal to a new scanner, and we're going to pass in system.in, or the input stream of the user or the system, which is typically the console. You can actually set it to like the a file passed in or something, but in all of our cases it'll be the console. So basically, let's say we want to get something from the console. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new string variable, and we're going to call this input, and it's equal to scan.next. And then we'll go ahead and just print that out. Input is, and you can add on strings at the end. It's called concatenation. So plus input, and let's go ahead and run that. And like a doofus I am, you have to actually put in something. So let's go ahead and put in stuff. Sounds interesting. And we can see that input is stuff. And then we went ahead and finished the program. And the next thing we have to do with this is actually compare it to actual values. So let's say that we want to see if the input is Annie. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to say if input dot equals Annie, system dot out, user put in Annie. And just for showing you that if we don't put in Annie, it'll print out something else. So else system.out.println user put in, and let's just print out whatever the user put in. So plus input. And let's type in Annie. And we can see that the user put in Annie. Let's run it again and not put in Annie. So like Ginny. User put in Ginny. Now you may be thinking to yourself, why don't I just do input equals Annie? And you're thinking to yourself, that should work. Let me go ahead and type in Annie. And you see how this is a capital A here? It actually printed out the one right here. And you're like thinking, well, I'm just seeing if it's equal to Annie. What you're actually comparing is not the value of these. You're comparing the reference of this. So the reference, so let me go ahead and do this and show you the equivalent thing that you're doing. Annie. Gotta put semicolons in my code. Condition. So basically, go ahead and do that. Basically what you're saying here is I'm going to see if the reference, so the thing, the address of the the address of what I'm pointing to is equal to the address of condition. They are not the same. Now the value may be the same, but you're not checking the value. That's what this dot equals does. So what you're saying here is whether the value, so the thing that you actually put into the console, is equal to the value of condition. So let me go ahead and put in condition, and let's go ahead and run it again. I cannot stress this enough. When you use double equals, it'll compare the immediate value of the variable, which in string variables will be the address to the reference of the value and not the actual value of the string itself. So when you actually want to compare values of any object type, you will always use a dot equals and not use a double equals if you want to compare straight up values of an object type. Now, if you're going to compare primitives, it is fine. So let's go ahead and do getting a number from the user. So it's a little bit more convoluted. Excuse me. We still have to do this line here. So string input equals scan.next. But instead of doing input equals 17, we can't do that. We're comparing a string to an integer. We have to convert this string to an integer. And to do that, all we have to do is this. So let's create a new integer variable, I equals, and if you want to convert the input to an integer, you're going to do integer dot parse int input. And now we can do if I is equal to 17. Hey, that's a number that I wanted. And then let's go ahead and put something else in here. Else. Oh no, I was expecting 17. Go ahead and whoa. And let's go ahead and run this. And let's type in 17. And we can see that it converted the input, so the string, to an integer and compared it to another integer. And if we type in something like 55, it says, oh no, I was expecting 17. Now you may ask yourself, what if I type in like balls? It'll just crash. So basically, it can't actually convert balls into a number. You may have many balls, but Java itself does not know what you mean by balls. It expects a number. So basically, it expects something like 55, 545, because it can't type 55 right now. But basically, what this parse int will expect is that your string is actually a string, a sequence of numbers, and not anything else. If you want to actually check whether you're actually passing in a string of numbers, I will get into that later, and we're going to do that with the try catch, which we'll actually cover much later, and I'll show you how to handle that case. But for now, actually put in valid input, and that's pretty much it for getting input from the user. So if you want to get a string, you use scan.next, and if you want to get a number, you use integer.parseInt. That's for getting an integer number. It also works for floats too. So if you do float f equals float.parseFloat, and you just put in input. So if we put in like, oh yeah, I have to actually put a semicolon at the end. Dummy. Go ahead and run this. As you can see, we can actually put in like 55.5. And it tried, let me go ahead and erase this line. It's my bad. And we say if f is greater than 17. So basically, you can still do it with floats. You can also do it with doubles. You can do it with integers. You can do it with just normal comparing strings. But remember, if you're going to compare strings, use dot equals and not double equals. If you use double equals, you're going to compare the reference to an object type, which is not the same as the value. But basically, that's getting input from the user, and we'll be going in more into it depth as we go over loops and other things like that. So I just want to get you guys used to seeing things such as scan.next, and later on we'll go into scan.nextLine, which will help filter out input and stuff using a loop and stuff. But basically, that's the basic intro to getting input from the user, and hope to see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.